AJ here with ProLine. Let's take a look at connecting Calendly to your ProLine accounts. We'll go over how to connect it because it does connect through Zapier, and then also some other things to consider. So first of all, there can be some conflicts between ProLine's two-way calendar sync and your calendar sync with through Calendly. So where things are going to get really messy is if you're using Calendly for the scheduling pages and scheduling appointments through Calendly, but then also trying to schedule inside of ProLine as well through our scheduling portal or scheduling system. If you are trying to do both, it's not going to work. You do have to commit to doing one or the other. And the reason that you have to commit is because both systems have a two-way sync with calendars, specifically Google Calendar. I think Calendly will work with Office 365 or Outlook as well, and so do we. So if you have both systems connected to the calendar, what you're going to end up doing is double creating every event, because every event that is getting booked through Calendly gets created on the calendar, and then it goes into ProLine, gets created again on the calendar. And so if you are going to use Calendly, you need to not connect your ProLine calendars. Leave everyone in your account needs to have no connected calendar for all the calendars in their account here on the integrations page. There is alternatively, you could also do it this way. You could go into Calendly, and I believe in Calendly. I haven't personally done this, but I believe in Calendly you can turn off Calendly's creation of events. So you could also go that direction if you wanted as well. Just have Calendly just be a booking system, push things into ProLine, let ProLine sync to the calendar. So it's up to you on how to approach that, but our recommendation is do not use ProLine's two-way calendar integration and only book. If you're going to use Calendly at all, use it for all your events. Do not book events inside of ProLine. If you're using Calendly, you're using Calendly, and you got to book all your events that way, and that's how it's going to sync to your calendar. So that's really important to establish right off the bat. Then in Calendly, you are going to have your booking pages. Calendly has a Zapier app. This is a invitation-only Zapier, which means that you have to go into the integration section of Calendly and request access to the Zapier. So that's an important thing to note. It's not just going to show up in Zapier automatically. You do have to go in and request that from Calendly. I think it's instant. You just click a link and you get access to it, but that is required. So we have two different workflows that we need to set up to connect Calendly to ProLine. There is the appointment canceled workflow, and then there's the new appointment. And you're going to use this invitee created in Calendly. This is going to be for the initial creation of the event, and then you're going to use the invitee canceled in Calendly for canceling the appointment. Now, you may look at this and be like, this is really overwhelming. There's a lot going on here, and there is some steps here. They're all here for a reason, and what you're looking for is kind of the ultimate connection between Calendly and ProLine. You can scale this back in cases where if every single event that's getting scheduled in Calendly is always a new project in ProLine, then you don't need all of this. But I generally would recommend just going through and just going ahead and build this out. It seems like a lot, but the alternative to this would be for us to create some sort of one master step, and then it wouldn't be flexible, it wouldn't be customizable, and it would actually be a lot more confusing because you wouldn't really know everything going on in that one step. This just breaks down exactly what's going on in ProLine when the invitee gets created. So let's start here at the top. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for an existing contact in ProLine based on the phone number and the email that was used in Calendly. Now, this is important. Calendly has their kind of automated texting for reminders, and if you want to use that, you can use that, and that number will come through. But that's the only way to collect the number automatically. If you're not using that system and you're just using ProLine, which is what we'd recommend, then you're going to need to add a custom field in the Calendly for the phone. And you can add a phone field, and then that's going to come through, and you have to make sure to select the right questions and response. These are going to be coming into Zapier as 1, 2, 3 looks exactly like this, but 1, 2, 3 for the different information. They're not going to be labeled the way they are in Calendly, so you just have to make sure you select the right one. And then keep that consistent if you have multiple event types in Calendly. So you're going to pull in the phone here, pull in the email, and we're going to find and go and see if there's an existing contact in ProLine for this invitee. Then once we have that, we're going to go and look to see if there's an existing project. And we're going to see if there's already a project in ProLine for that contact. And that the only good way to do this, and this is why we have this find contact step, the only good way to do this is by searching by the contact. So we got to find the contact first, then we search for the most recent project for that contact, and that will come up here. Now, this is going to ensure that if in most cases, a lead's going to come in, it's going to go into your ProLine account, and then they're going to schedule an appointment, right? That's the normal order. And so there's normally going to be a project that you want to associate this event with. And so that's what this step is for. And let's edit this app so that we can actually look at this. So yeah, we have phone and email that we're searching by. Then we're going into find the project. And we're just doing this based on only the main contact ID. You can, if you have the fields for address and stuff, search by that, or filter by stage if you want to only look for projects and certain things. But for this specific connection, generally that can run into issues where it ends up creating a new project instead of finding the old one. So my recommendation is just search by the contact. It's going to pull the most recent project for the contact, and then it's going to locate that. So now we've found our project, the existing project, or not found it, either way. And this is actually really important down here at the bottom. Should this step be considered a success when nothing is found? You need to make sure that's yes. Assuming that you want to create a project if one is not found, that needs to be yes. And same thing for contact. You need to make sure that is selected to continue if nothing is found. Then here we're going to find the team member in ProLine that's associated with this event. So which, depending on how your Calendly is set up and how big of a team you have, those Calendly events are going to be scheduled with a specific person on your team. And so that person, we want to find that team member in ProLine. And so we're going to do that. Super easy to do just based on the email. And so event members email. So this is the user from inside of Calendly or for this event. And we're going to search ProLine and find the associated team member in ProLine that matches that email. So now we have the project, we have the team member, and then in this one, you can see here, I believe I have it not considered a success if nothing is found. If ProLine doesn't have anyone to assign this event to, the way I have it set up, you can set it up differently if you wanted to just default to the owner or something. Then you can do that differently. But I have it set up where it's not going to create the event if it can't find a team member that matches the user email in Calendly. All right, and now we're going to create or update this project that we found. So you would pull in the project ID from this third step. And the way ProLine's create or update project step works is if this ID is present, then ProLine finds it and edits it. If it's not, then ProLine will create a new project instead. And so that's very flexible. So as people are scheduling on here, regardless of whether they're in ProLine or not, the way this is set up, it will either update the existing project or it will create a new project. Then we have, we're going to pull in the assignee because we want to make sure this is assigned to that person that the event was scheduled with. We're going to pull in our address information. If we want to choose other things, we can, but generally you're not going to want to do that through this connection. Then generally you're going to want to pull in some of the information from the Calendly event, especially if this is a public-facing scheduler and you want to have some pre-qualification questions as they're scheduling an appointment. You're going to want to have all that information pulled into ProLine. Now, important note here is that if you want ProLine to add to the existing notes, you need to put those here. And so you can reference that third step where we found the project, and we're going to pull in the existing project notes here at the top. And then below it, we're putting in the event name, all that information. If you don't do that, ProLine's going to replace the note entirely. And so any notes that might be in there, maybe from the lead stage or whatever it is, are going to get replaced and deleted. So if you want to preserve those existing notes, make sure to do that. Then we have contact ID. This is going to be the contact that is used for the main contact for the project, and we're going to reference to and put that in there. But we're also going to put in the contact first name, contact last name, phone, and email. The reason we're going to do both here is that if there's an existing contact, we want to make sure, and we're still creating a project, we want to make sure that contact is syncing up here. But then if the Zap didn't find a contact there, then we still want to create a contact. And so ProLine will create, using this first name, last name, phone, email, will create a new contact instead. So a lot of like ProLine's create or update, it's very flexible in that you just push in as much information as you have, and ProLine will figure it out for you once it gets the data on like whether or not we're creating a contact or using an existing. That all gets figured out. Okay, so next thing we have here is find an existing event in ProLine. And the reason that we have this is because this invitee created also is going to fire if someone reschedules. So sometimes you don't necessarily want to create an event. Sometimes you need to, if it's a reschedule, then you want to find an existing event in ProLine and change the information on it. And so that's what we're doing here. And we're going to take and I'll show you why this will work here in the next step. But if we search by external ID, so not the event ID, it's not the ProLine event ID, but the external ID, which is a field that we can save information into in this later step, we're going to search and make sure to select Calendly's old event ID, because every time you reschedule, it creates a new event with a new ID. So make sure to use the old event ID tag here, or token, and it will locate the existing event in ProLine with that external ID. And that works because here at the end, I think I'm gonna sneeze. Maybe not. All right. Okay. We have, we're going to reference, or when we're creating or updating the event, we're always putting the actual event ID. No, not so. In this case, it's not the old event ID, but the current event ID is being saved as the external ID when creating or updating the event. So that's how we're able to find it if it is a reschedule and not a new event. So coming back here up at the top, though, we're going to reference that event ID from step 6 if it exists. And if it doesn't exist, then ProLine will create a new event for us instead. Project ID, events do need to be associated with a project, and so you would reference that from step 5. This will work regardless of whether ProLine created or updated the project. That step 5 will always have a project ID exposed through this token. And so you have project ID. Then, of course, event start time. We're going to plug that in. You're going to select the event type inside of ProLine that you want to use for this event. So normally it's going to be your inspection or appointment event type, whatever your normal event type is for sales appointments. And then this contact time zone is not relevant for most companies. It can be relevant for companies that have more than one location that crosses a time zone. Then the time zone does come into play. But this is also something that has to be enabled in ProLine's settings. So you can generally just leave that blank. External ID, we went over that. And then these down here, you're just going to pretty much always leave them as true. You can dig into what they do if you want and customize that. But in most cases, you're just going to want to leave them as true. And so that is the workflow. And by breaking it down this way, you can see the logic that ProLine is following with what it's doing. And as I said before, you could simplify this down and you could take out the finding part here. I think that's the only part you could take out. You could take out that. It's just always going to create a new project if you do that. So there's going to be, if you only want to have these four, it's never going to find and update the existing project. It will always create a new project. Also, if you are okay with ProLine always creating a new event, then you don't have to do this find event. But there's reasons for all of this, and building it out this way with all these 7 actions will maximize the flexibility of the connection. All right, so let's jump over here. This one's a lot simpler. So appointment canceled, we're going to just find the event in ProLine using the event ID, and then we're going to cancel it. So we have this cancel event in ProLine action, and so you just make sure to pass in the, actually, just noticing that this is not correct. So this is something to be careful with. So this is not going to be the external ID, but in this case, it's going to be from our find event in ProLine event ID. That's what we're going to use to cancel. So I just set this up the other day, so I'm glad I caught that. All right, so yeah, find event. This is going to use the event ID, searching in the external ID field, and then we're going to cancel it using the ProLine event ID that was found in step 2, that was returned in step 2. And that's for cancellations. And so if it gets canceled, it'll get pulled out of ProLine. It will stop the reminders campaign. So that's, if you don't do this, if you don't have the appointments canceled zap, then it is possible for ProLine to continue to remind them about an upcoming appointment, even though it was deleted in Calendly. So that's why this is important, so that ProLine knows not to continue to remind them of that upcoming appointment. And that pretty much covers everything. Hopefully that helps as you're setting up Calendly integrations. We do eventually plan to have a direct Calendly integration, as well as having our own booking pages. Calendly has some really cool functionality that we will never have, so we do want to have a direct integration with them. But also for companies that are just using the booking page functionality, that's all they need. It's just an external page that they can present, embed, or send to customers to schedule appointments. That's something that we'll also have in ProLine probably within the next 8 months. So hopefully that helps.